in my phone because I ramble a lot, and this is going to try and keep me in. So I'm Gareth, I use he, them pronouns. I'm Operations Director at Junkfish, and today I'll be talking about facing communication problems in remote working. So in my history, during the pandemic, started working remotely as pretty much all of us did. Then I moved to Cloud Imperium. At that point, they hadn't committed to returning to office yet. Spent a year and a half working fully remote with Cloud Imperium. And then when they began their phasing of returning to office, I'd looked for the next job that would be fully remote, so I could continue fully remote working. So now at Junkfish, 8 months after I joined Junkfish, the owners of the company sold the central studio, so we are fully remote across Europe. We have most of our staff within Britain. We've got a few Irish staff, a few Spaniards, a few Italians, we've got Slovenian, Swedes. We're all over the place at the moment. And one of the things that I've experienced over the past few years of everyone going remote, and then the big decision on whether we return to office or whether we continue remote, is this idea of productivity. People are more productive in office is the argument. And when staff bases try and fight back against this and say, no, I'm more productive at home, I find this to be quite a dishonest argument, because that's not what staff want to say. Staff want to say is, I like seeing my family more. I like not commuting. I like not being stuck in traffic. I like being able to just disappear every 5-10 minutes and people not asking me where I'm going. So you end up with a very misaligned argument. I think the core of this is due to values, essentially, and it comes down to whether you want the control and the freedoms to be within the power of the hierarchy, the decision makers of the company, or whether you want the power to be with the individuals of the company. Now, I have a bias here, and there's a reason why I sought out remote working, and I'm very, I'd be careful being in the house of Barclays to say I'm very anti-capitalist and don't really care about business having power. I would much rather the staff enjoy their time, care about the company, commit to the company who is committing to them. And so a lot of my opinions about how you can successfully run a remote studio is based out of the fact that out principle I want that. So I am going to look for the good in remote working, but I think there is a logic here that kind of points out that it's not the problem that we often think about in terms of productivity that says whether we should be in office or whether we should be remote working. There are naturally some unique problems, so if you are all remote working or hybrid and spending the majority of time remote working, there's things like organic discovery. So this is this argument that you'll hear about productivity to support it. If someone's having a problem over there, I get to hear them. I get to hear them complain, I get to see them monitor where they're stuck on an issue, and I, as a manager, as a lead, as a mentor, as a senior, get to watch that and I can catch it. If people are working at home, I don't get to see that happen. That is true. The other side of things are tech problems. If you have someone whose internet goes down, if you have someone that forgets a password, having an on-site IT manager, having their PC be in office, just quicker. There is another very key problem to remote working, which a lot of people don't give enough credit for. It is how lonely it is. So at Junkfish, 2 weeks ago, we had an initiative to support Loneliness Awareness Week, which is a thing we have annually in the UK as a mental health initiative. So we had a series of social activities. We watched a bunch of Ghibli films together. We had a music listening party, which was very selfish of me, because I had this idea that everyone would submit a song, and then we'd all review the songs that were submitted together, and we'd be scoreable, and people would try and critique things and say, I don't like this, and people would say they would love this, and everyone turned up and they cared about each other's music. The one song that everyone hated was mine, which I was like, I'm glad that people were willing to say they didn't like a thing rather than lie. That's great. I also ran an episode of Taskmaster, which was great. My favourite task that I got everyone to do was fastest to get another colleague present in this call, which annoyed the heck. I know. I think I'm allowed to say that. Good. Thank you. Had to switch that. Annoyed some of the colleagues, much to their chagrin, much to my pleasure. Most people turned up and went, why am I here? I set for the fun, and they went, okay, right. We had one person who was like, oh, all right, I know what to call, which I thought was great. But, yeah, there's this thing of, if you build it, they will come, and sometimes people don't. But with one of the initiatives and the kind of social activities we run at Junkfish, it shows people do want this. This is a missing core of people's lives. We often underestimate that 8 hours a day in this building that pays our wages, we put masks on, we turn up, we hate our bosses, we don't want to be there, but we spend 8 hours a day in the company of others. It is nice if you've got family at home. It is nice if you work in co-op spaces and you can frequently move in and out as you need that social fix. But this is a problem of remote working that a lot of people don't quite value in it. So you really have to care about how to please people, how to care about people's personalities, what their individual interests are, and how to please people, how to make them happy. The other side of the fence, though, is personal freedoms. Again, not having to pay for commuting, not having to be stuck in traffic, being able to see your family, your loved ones, your friends whenever you want. If you've always wanted to get buff and go to the gym, but you can't really find the time in the middle of the working day, and then you've had 8 hours of a working day, and then you get home and you're like, tomorrow's the day I'm going to the gym. Remote working makes it much easier to just go, right, at lunch I'll go to the gym. I've spent time not draining my battery, dealing with people and having to pretend I care about the film they saw over the weekend. I can spare my energy to go and do these things. It's a lot easier for people to choose as and when they apply themselves. Things like flexi time become a thing that is a lot more relevant and a lot more useful when flexi time means you can stand up and leave work whenever you want. So the power to control when you apply people is a power that businesses don't really want to give up, which is why they advocate for returning to office. And the power to choose what your work means to you as an individual is why people want to work from home. So when it comes to the communication itself in remote working, this is where I'm going to do a bit of a call to action and get people to either put their hands up or not, and they go, what your experience has been. But in my experience, problems in communication for remote working are things like siloing. So that's where people get lost in their own little bubble, where they detach from some goals and aims, drives that people have above them, or improvements that they've had with other teams on delivery. Divergence from goals, often a product of siloing. So where people understand that the aim is one thing and it's actually another. Right? As a producer, my key trait that I describe to people is being able to translate English to English. So you have code English, and art English, and QA English, and marketing English. All the stakeholders above have their own versions of English. Hopefully I can speak most of them. And this is quite a common thing that I find, is that teams go, they all use the same words, and they go, great, we're in agreement. Let's finish this call. And I get it, and I go, no, you've not agreed. You are all using the same words, but I know by your attention that you mean different things. If you leave people in a silo, they will end up working towards a slightly different version of the project, and that's where you find in a milestone meeting, in some sort of delivery meeting, later down the line, it can be weeks, it can be months, it can literally be years, someone goes, ta-da! And you go, what's that? The thing we agreed. Did we? That happens semi-regularly, and on which timing we're looking at. Slow delivery or non-completion of fixes or feature development is a very common one, and this is where that organic discovery is something that's really useful for. Someone has a one-day task, takes them 2 days, and we go, I know what the problem is, leave it with me. 3 days. I'm getting there, leave it with me. It's 4 days. It can get quite tricky to stop that person and go, you need to pass this over to someone else, you need to go sit with a lead, you need to do some rubber ducking. If you don't know that's happening, remote working enables that. The other things become a lot more political, things like malicious compliance, willful disagreement of order, where there's also quite quitting. There's also it is also just rejection or low effort. If you disagree with someone and what they're asking you to do, you're putting the least amount of effort. And this kind of goes back to my bias towards remote working, make people happy, they will care. But For these problems of siloing, divergence from goals, detachment from team project or management, slow delivery or non-completion of fix or feature development, malicious compliance and all the other politics that comes with it, put your hands up if you have never experienced these things in office. And I'm asking you to kind of do the opposite, saying it. If you've experienced any of these, keep your hands down. Oh, so they happen in office. 12. Who's never experienced most of these? So the ability to, or the outcome of siloing, divergence from goals, detachment, slow delivery or non-completion of fix or feature, and any politics. Okay, put your hand
Still in office, sorry.
Still in office.
Howdy.
Okay, put your hands up then. Put your hand up if you've experienced most of these. Excellent. That is the outcome I wanted for something else. Thank you all. So my point of principle here is these kind of problems that occur remotely also occur in person. And this is where I've come to the conclusion that the problem is not remote working or office, it's humans. We're the problem. If you need any person to speak A to B, group to group, up the hierarchy or across into different silos, different teams, as soon as you get humans involved in that, there's lots of efficiency in what someone means, what someone's going to take away, what someone wants to do, especially where politics comes in, when someone has their own agenda. This is not a remote working issue. This is not a in-person issue. However, remote working can exacerbate the situation. People's ability to go and hide, people's ability to miss the point that's being made, especially when in person you have someone's facial movements. I talk in my hands a lot, as you've probably noticed. These things help things not get lost. So when it comes to actually solving communication problems, I have 3 key principles. They're based on, if something is a solution, what is the problem? So any communication point, anything, anytime that you need person A and person B to do a thing together, communication is a solution to transferring an idea. Communication is a solution for solving a problem. Communication is a solution for getting someone to do a thing. So if it is a solution, and the problem is that transference of knowledge or instruction or order, why are we doing it? So where things start to get lost, where people don't quite get things, where people stop turning up to meetings, where people are struggling to get the point, where you need a meeting for the meeting, what is the problem? Why are you having this meeting? And this why is the second principle. So we go, if this is a solution, what is the problem? Why is the problem? Investigate it, triage it, try and understand why we're having this meeting, because we have this problem. Why do we have this problem? What are we trying to achieve? And then that leads us into my third principle, which is understanding is greater than agreement. So achieve buy-in and get people to follow a plan, to be willing to put their hand up and go, I made a mistake, to be willing to put their hand up and say, I need help. You need a culture where people don't necessarily agree with each other, they understand each other. So that should be the objective of communication. So what that looks like in a remote work environment is things like transparency. I do have another big talk that I'd like to give one day of stoicism. I actually need to deliver it down the developing myself now. One day I'll get there. Valuable meetings is a quick note that I've put down. But what I mean by valuable meetings is a clear agenda, a lean guest list, having the right people in the right role, making sure that communication is on point with the agenda of the meeting, and make sure if there is an opportunity for a conclusion or an action point to be found, you are pushing towards that. It's not a social get-together where everyone gets to take a turn talking, unless you're at a round table. In that case, that's the point of that kind of meeting, but that's what the agenda is. It becomes a clear tool that you're trying to use. We have this problem at Junkfish where stand-ups, and stand-ups may be a word that triggers some people in this room, because what stand-ups mean is 5, 10, 15 all-hands meetings sometimes of everyone. One meeting, I'm working on this. You, next person, No one's listening. Everyone's waiting for that to say what they're working on. Where is the value in that? What's the point of that meeting? It's minimal. Now, at Junkfish, we have a style of meeting which we call roundtables, where we get together to discuss internal or external big thinky ideas. So we've had one about treatment of women in the games industry. We've had one around usage of AI and the growing use of AI. We've had roundtables about mental health in the workspace. And our team had the worst stand-up going. They used to have 2 a week. They asked to be dropped to 1 a week because no one was getting any value out of it. And I was telling them, the point is, it's for your peers, it's for your leaders to hear you say what you were talking about, talk about big problems, and they can go, oh, I didn't know you were working on that, or, oh, it seems like you're stuck. I've come across that problem. Well, spend 5 minutes with me after the call, go through that together. But it wasn't, because no one had bought into it, no one understood why they were doing a stand-up. So they recently asked for it to be ended, and I said, it's your call. I'm a producer. I'm not here to tell you to have meetings. I'm here to try and help you get the best out of the meetings you have. If you want to kill the stand-up, you can do, but please can you try and find something else? So the lead came back to me with this idea of roundtables. Can we have our roundtables instead of our stand-ups? Now, in reality, that's the same meeting. It's the same, they're getting together and they're talking about what they're working on. But with this principle of roundtables that we'd already run, people understood roundtables to mean we all get to contribute. We should all be looking to contribute. We should all be listening. We get to critique. We get to disagree. So with this rebranding of what the stand-up was, they now like it. They now care about it and they now want to engage with it. There was a lack of understanding as to why they were having stand-ups to begin with. The stand-up is a solution to the problem. Do people know what each other are working on? Do leads know what their staff are working on? Is anyone stuck and not putting their hand up? Is anyone going through imposter syndrome and terrified that they put their hand up, they're going to get found out? In this roundtable where there's this more casual openness, people are a lot more willing to be vulnerable. People are a lot more willing to listen to each other rather than doing the secondary tasks. And this is the point of remote working. For any big meeting that you have, documentation is another great place and a great example for making sure you keep it up to date. But the other side of all of this is having guides, strong leads, mentors, seniors that are driving a culture of healthy and positive communication. And this can be built out with finding any communication interaction as a solution. The problem being trying to solve something, trying to communicate an idea, or trying to get someone to follow a brief, follow orders, follow something that's trying to support kind of this milestone, whatever is the target. Then the goal of all of that is to get people to understand why it's happening. Again, they don't have to disagree with it. Sorry, they don't have to agree with it. But if they understand it, they'll get what their role in the contribution is and get what their role in communication is. So that's where I would conclude. And if at any meeting, any documentation that you raise, make sure that you are understanding why you're raising it and what it is solving. And then in terms of distributing it and get people to buy in, make sure that they understand it. Your goal is not to get them to agree. They're welcome to disagree. If you are with a hierarchy, if they're paying money, you do have to follow it to some point. Whether they care about following it is going to be based on whether they understand. So get people to understand ahead of getting them to agree. Woo! I'm done.